Welcome to Save As Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David Darkangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Save As Ability. We've got a great guest today. Dr. Andrew Karhan is joining us. But please, before we get to our guest, help us grow our channel. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all of that really helps us keep great content flowing for you. So we had some inquiries, and I thought, who better to answer these inquiries than really one of our nation's preeminent experts in the area, and it's Dr. Andrew Karhan. We've worked together on the Council of State Governments had put together a series of task force and convenings, and you were in on it, and you've continued, and you've got your dissertation on employment for youth, and you're still involved with, I think, what do they call it, CAPE Youth, and but I think we're going to talk a little bit about people with disabilities in higher education today. So with that, we want to welcome in Drew Karhan. Welcome, Dr. Karhan.
Oh, thank you. Yes, yeah. It's still strange to hear that. It's a fresh doctorate, so it's always good to know to now have that behind me, and I can move forward the rest of my career and focus on my work fully.
Sure. And you've done a lot of great work. You were previously at Cornell and the initiatives that they were doing, but now I think you're at San Diego State.
Yes, I am. I'm at San Diego State University's Interwork Institute. I've been there now just over 2 years, which seems to have just flown by.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, were they a USED? I'm trying to remember the USEDs out in California.
No, we are not a USED.
Not a USED.
We are
okay.
A minority serving institution. And so there's a lot that comes with that. And we focused heavily on that, both in our work with the Center for Advancing Policy on Employment for Youth, the CAPE Youth project that you had mentioned. That was is our primary role there, is to serve as that minority serving institution. So it's good to have that designation and be focused on supporting underserved and underrepresented populations, specifically related to people with disabilities. Certainly the university looks at things more broadly, but we're using that lens within the population of people with disabilities to advance the work there.
Great. Well, I know you and I are of the same mindset that we have this two-step challenge. Number one, we've got to get people in the labor force. And then once they're in the labor force, we got to get them employed, right? So tell us about some of the things that you've been studying and what our listeners can absorb from that.
Yeah, I think, some of the things that I've really been focusing on is the avenue of post-secondary education for students with disabilities. We know that post-secondary education is a viable pathway. It's a known predictor to post-school success and to employment. We know that it leads to higher long-term earnings for individuals. The research is there for people with disabilities and people without disabilities, that as your degrees advance, your lifetime income advances. And so, in thinking about that and the work that we've done sort of as a system and a field, there has been less emphasis focused on what's happening around students with disabilities in higher education. And there's a couple reasons for that. Most of the supports that students with disabilities can afford themselves of when they enter a higher education environment are really tied to Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. But those protections and the services and supports that are available are vastly different than what a student with a disability may have been used to in the secondary education environment. So as they transition, there really is a need to be looking in the post-secondary environment. Well, how do we create an inclusive space that welcomes students with disabilities in, that certainly provides the supports that a disability resource office or a student access office, they go by different names, the resources that they can afford a student, but how do you make that almost seem invisible within a university environment to include things like universal design and thinking through how we offer supports to all students, not just students with disabilities, and therefore in doing so, really create an environment that allows for inclusion and doesn't require a singling out or a pulling out of a student to say, oh, well, we need to pull them out to go take their test here, or this student needs this. And, for a real good example of that is something that's really basic. It's note taking. It's one of the number one accommodations that students with disabilities ask for within the post-secondary education systems. And it's one of those things, particularly now with the onset of extremely advanced technology like artificial intelligence and all of the various things that can come from that. Note-taking could be implemented university-wide, college-wide, across the board in all classrooms and providing note-taking service without having anybody needing to even ask for that service. And so, that has, a couple different benefits. One
or
is
even needing a human to perform the note-taking.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. You don't need to have another student that's doing their notes and then having those notes then be translated by the student with the disability. It's a word for word transcript of things, which then AI can then summarize without having, again, humans. Certainly you want to have a human check that, but the level of interaction and work and effort that would need to be there. And so something like that is a universal design principle of if you put that accommodation in place for all students, it's benefiting everybody and the student with the disability as well. And there's no need to create the stigma of, oh, well, hey, I need note taking, or use the resources of the Disability Resource Office to send the letter to the professor, interact with the professor, have the student take the time with the professor to work out the note-taking, find the other student. I mean, there's all of those logistical things too that just wouldn't need to happen. So that's just one example of something that I think could be greatly benefited within higher education.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the evolution of higher ed accommodations and reasonable modifications, because when I was at the Office on Disability, it was all about, well, can we get the person into the dorm? There's only steps. How are they going to have the same experience, right? And so it's evolved from like built environment stuff where there's still a ways to go there. But now so much more, particularly with online learning and virtual learning and all of that. Can you speak a little bit to the feeder system of how the kids now they're coming out of high school, they're going into higher ed? We used to really we had programs in place to be able to educate people with disabilities in high schools to give them the courage to go speak to their ADA office, or, some colleges and universities still didn't even really have a matured thing. Now I think it's much more sophisticated. Can you speak to that a little bit and how you've seen that evolve?
Yeah, I think I've seen it evolve. I've seen the need for it to continually evolve and build the resources and supports. Sometimes what ends up happening is the avenues that students choose, particularly students with disabilities, if they were not high in the academic realm, they might be moving on to community colleges because that's the avenue to which they can get into a school and pursue their higher education. And they may have a disability resource office, but it also may be less resource rich than some of the other institutions that have additional money, benefactors, people pouring money into the field. They may be a university center of excellence. They may have other partnerships within the university structure that gives them a subject matter expertise and a knowledge to pull upon as they build like a more inclusive university environment. And so, I think that the transformation that I'm seeing is one, higher education is being presented more as an opportunity for people, even people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. There's been a significant amount of effort put into the programs on colleges and universities that have been federally funded to support individuals with developmental disabilities on having what I would call an inclusive education experience. it's not always leading to credentials. There are a few of those programs that lead to credentials and degree attainment. Much of them are much more about the student having an experience of being on a college campus. And so
community living experience, really.
Exactly. Right. And so I've seen that as a growth. And I also see that those programs are growing and moving from the community living, community experience to, hey, there are still students who could be getting credentials and degrees, and how can we build that into these programs? And then coupling that with how can university campuses think about inclusion? There's been a significant amount of focus on universal design for learning across university campuses, although I must say much needs to be done. I know of a few instances where those conversations happened within universities, and the University Disability Resource Office wasn't brought to the table as part of the conversation related to universal design. And it just sort of makes you, as an educator and as a policy person and practitioner, I'm thinking, I just sort of scratch my head like, how did that happen? In one instance, and I, won't mention the university, but, it was where they had a disability focused office. As you said, they also had significant work and quality work being done in the Disability Resource Office, and neither of those two were brought together in that conversation. And
that's frustrating.
It's frustrating. It's troublesome. So really one of the things that I'm trying to do with the work that I'm focusing on with Cape Youth and some other projects, and looking to publish a few papers and articles here on this topic, is to really get universities, particularly presidents, chancellors, people within higher echelons within those university systems, to just pause for a moment. Hopefully somebody's going to put these types of things in front of them to say, hey, how can we create a more inclusive campus for all people, and make sure that conversation includes people with disabilities.
I'm so thankful for that, because, colleges and universities are big business, and there's a lot of money there. There's a lot. So this excuse of, well, we don't have the resources is just not there. So that's a good thing. So, all right, Andrew, as we begin to wrap up, tell people how they can get in touch with you, check out your work. What are you working on?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to get to me is through my email. It's Karhan, Karhan at SDSU.edu. Certainly feel free to shoot me an email, a message. You can also check out the Cape Youth website at www.capeyouth.org. So that's a great area if you're looking for policy and employment work. We are going to be publishing a brief around post-secondary education, so that's going to be forthcoming in the new year. So if you're really interested in it, that should be up and posted soon. Yeah.
All right, great. And it's, we really want people to get into it, but a big part of community participation, not only for the people with the disability themselves, but their family unit, that whole solar system. So to get involved, that's really part of upward mobility. And like you said up at the top, I mean, your chance of success goes up greatly when you have an education.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And while it's not for everybody, we work heavily on apprenticeships and and ensuring that there's other career pathways. A whole episode.
Maybe we'll have you back just to talk about apprenticeships.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, would love to.
That's a great thing. Yeah.
I'm big.
All right,
I'm big on
Andrew
career pathways.
Dr. Karhan, thank you for what you do and for this episode. So everybody, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. Again, please like, comment, subscribe, share, help us keep great content flowing for you. Another good episode of Say Visibility. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a great day.
For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David Darkangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.